As we wait to have everyone in the room, just a quick recap again. For those that were not with us earlier, we had good deliberations starting yesterday, and we were honored by the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda, Dr. Edward Ngirente. We were also honored with His Excellency Oscar Kerketa, the High Commissioner of India in Rwanda, Honorable Paula Ingabire, Minister of ICT and Innovation in Rwanda, Honorable Mark Botomani, Minister of Information, Civic Education and Communications and Technology in Malawi. We also had Honorable Kazembe, Minister of ICT, Postal and Courier Services in Zimbabwe, and other delegates. And we are also here today honored with the presence of Claire Kamanzi, the CEO of RDB, who will also be delivering the vote of thanks as we close off this ceremony. And I think without further ado, I think the key people are in the room, so we will just proceed. Today also we had just 2 sessions that were quite interesting as well. We had one on public service digitalization and looking at the role of the private sector in making sure that that is a success and not just leaving it to the government. And some of the key insights were that we need to design for the environment that we're in, and that we need to recognize the importance of step-by-step digitization process. And also just shortly we had the panelists discussing on the India-Africa government and private sector cooperation for shared prosperity. And we thank everyone that has, all the panelists that spoke today and for making their time and sharing with us their insights. And now, without further ado, I would like to welcome the leader of the Indian delegation, Joint Secretary and from the Ministry of Communications in India, Mr. Amit Yadav. A round of applause for him, please. Thank you.
From India, and at the very outset we would like to thank the Rwandan government, which has made this 2-day event successful. The presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, the presence of Honorable Minister ICT and Innovation, the presence of the CEO Rwanda Development Board, and other senior officials which have fully supported this India ICT Expo. And I'm sure without their help and support, we would not have made this event successful. We also would like to acknowledge the presence of honorable ministers from Malawi and from Zimbabwe, and also the official delegation from various other African countries. We have actually, on my personal behalf and from the Government of India behalf, we are honored and privileged to participate in this event, and the kind of support which we have got encourages us with further engagements in the coming time. And keeping in this, I would also like to acknowledge the other excellencies, dignitaries, the country delegation, the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, the Ministry of Trade and Industry of Rwanda, the supporting organization Rwanda Development Board, the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority, the Rwanda Information Society Authority, the Rwanda Convention Bureau, the ICT Chamber, and the National Industrial Research and Development Agencies, and other distinguished guests. At the outset, I would also like to thank the organizers, and especially the TEPC and the High Commission of India in Rwanda. Their participation and their encouragement and their support has made this event. And also the exhibitors and the delegates which have come from India and other African countries. It's been a wonderful 2 days. We've had very interesting sessions. We learned a lot, we shared a lot, and we had bilateral, and I think so we need to continue with those engagement with that kind of spirit, and taking forward the suggestions which we have received and the requests which we have received. We would also like to, at this point of time, invite the ministers present and their officials for the India Mobile Congress, which is going to happen from October 14th to 16th in New Delhi, in India. We have sent invites, and we will be formally, through our High Commission or through the diplomatic channels also, will be sending that. The questions which we heard and the priorities which we heard, I think so, largely are on infrastructure and largely on capacity buildings. And I think so the path which India has going through and India has gone through as meeting the aspiration of millions and billion in India, with the kind of terrain which it has, with the kind of remoteness it has, and the aspirations of people. And I think so that is something which we share, beside the sharing of the large cultural and heritage and ancient connections which we have, which has continued over the decades and century. And we want to leverage that, and that's why we're here. And I think so the exhibitors have showcased some of the Indian services and product across the range, the solution, the network equipments, and so on and so forth. We would like to actually also acknowledge that the Indian companies which have come, they are really interested in taking forward what has been the takeaways, and over the period of time we will definitely hear a lot on that. Also, on a personal level, Mr. Monish Gupta, we would like to thank him because of he is the bridge who's made this event successful, and I think so we need to acknowledge his support and his working together tirelessly, running around for months to make this event. I think so at the same time, we need to ensure that what we have taken in these 2 days doesn't wither away. It continues with a greater engagement, it continues with the support, and I'm sure in the coming time for Rwanda and for the other African nations which are present there, and we will continue with that spirit in the coming time. I'm also reminded of the absence of our minister, and we had explained that our minister is also the Minister of Law, and we had the Parliament session which is ongoing. The Minister of ICT is also the Minister of Law and Justice, and there are a number of bills which had to be laid in the House to the Parliament during this session, including yesterday where one of the very important constitutional amendment has taken place. So despite his commitment to come at the same time, because of the Parliament session getting extended, it was to close on 27th of July. He could not make it. Now it's extended till 7th of August. But I'm sure, Minister, we would have done our best effort in ensuring that though his presence was not there, he was there in the spirit, and our delegation in that spirit has worked. Thank you all, and we look forward to coming years, and with the business, the industry, the public sector, and the various organizers to work together to make these events and make the engagement much deeper, much more robust, and in the times to come, we would have something which meets the aspiration not only of Indians, but meet the aspiration of the African nations, and we are committed to that. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amit Yadav, for your remarks. Next, we will have Mr. Oscar Kerketa, the High Commissioner of India in Rwanda, to also deliver his closing remarks. Thank you. A round of applause as we receive him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Like my predecessor, I am also well prepared so you have to bear with me. Excellency Clara Kamanzi, CEO of RDB, Honorable Mark Botobani, Minister of Information, Civic Education and Communications Technology, Malawi, Honorable Kajembe, Minister of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. After nearly 2 days of meaningful exchanges, business-to-business meetings, government-to-government meetings, showcasing of products for various Indian and African companies, the India-Africa ICT Expo is coming to its conclusion. While the Expo is getting over, I'm sure that the Expo provided opportunity to various companies from India, which is very important for business, as I said in my remarks yesterday. If there is no trust, there would be no business at all. So events like this are important to build bridges and build trust. Under the theme Accelerating Africa's Digital Transformation Agenda, the inaugural conference has brought over 60 ICT companies from India, Rwanda, and other African countries. The various participants discussed constructive pathways to leapfrog Africa's digital economies by creating sustainable partnerships for African innovators to realize their full potential, hence contributing to the socio-economic transformation. The Expo has seen participation of delegates from 22 countries, and I can start reading out: Albania, Angola, Botswana, Burundi, Canada, DRC, Ethiopia, Gabon, Ghana, India, of course, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Malawi, Mali, Nigeria, Rwanda, Somalia, Senegal, Tanzania, Uganda, UAE, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. So the list is quite impressive. Nearly 1,000 delegates have participated in the event so far, which is a testimony to the success of the event. Apart from a large number of business-to-business meetings, many government-to-government meetings have also taken place during the event, particularly between Burkina Faso, India, Malawi, Rwanda, and Zimbabwe. This is important because often it is the government which is the biggest client for ICT services, be it for the use of these services in e-governance, health, education, cybersecurity, etc. Moreover, involvement of governments help in overcoming policy and implementation hurdles. A very important outcome of the event has been the exchange of MOU between TEPC and Smart Africa in the presence of Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda. It will facilitate support of Indian ICT stakeholders to 26 countries of Smart Africa initiative, and their experiences and expertise in ICT sector development will be available for the digital activity in Africa. In my deliberation yesterday, I had pointed out that India and Africa share several complementarities. We have similar demographic and ICT users profile, and what India brings to the table is the low-cost high-tech that suits the need of Africa because of our complementarities. Indian government is committed to sharing the experiences that it has learned during its development journey with our African partners. I'm sure this zeal of Government of India is shared by our companies as well as who are willing to partner with their African partners to usher a digital revolution in Africa. Please allow me to conclude by commending the Government of Rwanda, particularly Minister Paula Ingabire, for her support. My thanks also goes to the stakeholders from Rwanda, namely Ministry of Trade and Industry, Rwanda, RDB, RURA, RISA, RCB, NIDA, and the ICT fraternity. My appreciation also goes to TPC for their efforts in making this event take place, and not to say the least, also my appreciation to the Rwanda-India Friendship Association. And you have worked so hard to make this event successful. So far from my written speech, and I thank my deputy for giving me inputs and ideas on what to say at the closing ceremony. And now, since the majority of the audience is Rwandese, I would also like to say something on our relations with Rwanda. Soon I'm going to clock 1 year of my arrival here. I arrived here on our National Day last year, 15th August, and my instructions were there that no matter when you reach Rwanda, you have to come by 15th August because that's our National Day and it's very opportune day to start the opening, start the mission here. So last year I landed at Kigali airport at 5:30 in the morning, and soon I was whisked away to the flag hosting ceremony at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was almost half asleep, but I still managed to host the Indian flag day to mark the opening of the Indian mission. What I have learned in the last 1 year is that, particularly in the case of Rwanda, that we are committed to our development partnership with Rwanda, and our developmental assistance commitment exceeds $500 million. To be exact, it's $547 million. It's a big amount of money that we have committed to any country so far. I don't say it's the biggest. There are countries which are getting much more developmental assistance than this amount which Rwanda is getting. And it's in all sectors. Basically, the Rwandan government has to decide what sector they want to cooperate with, and we come forward with our money, with our ideas, with our expertise to implement our developmental cooperations. So in the case of Rwanda, cooperation is taking place in the area of agriculture, also in the infrastructure. We have funded your Nyabarongo power project. We are still working on your vocational education. We are still working on your road project. So there are quite a few areas earmarked for cooperation between India and Rwanda. But when we come for development cooperation from the with our partnering countries, then we also, because from our side our commitment is there, but we also expect the proper enabling environment to be placed, because there is a saying in India that it takes two to tango, or rather it's a common saying, it takes two to tango. We can't go ahead in the developmental cooperation unless there is also equal support from the Rwandan side. And Clay Rakamanji, you are here. Honorable Minister Paula, you are also here. This is, I would like to emphasize that while we have our commitment, we expect the similar enabling environment for our developmental cooperation to take place. And this is the note on which I would like to end my remarks today. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for him, please. Thank you, Mr. Oscar. Now we will go straight into the very last part of this ceremony. I will call upon Honorable Claire Kamanzi, the CEO of Rwanda Development Board. Please help me welcome her.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your remarks. When you say that it takes two to tango, I remember that tango is actually a dance. And I said I'll volunteer Minister Paula for that. But namaste. Well, we are going to stay with at least one word that we learn from you, which is namaste. Thank you. I'd like our Indian counterparts to also go back with the word murakoze. So make sure that by the time you leave Rwanda, at least you don't forget that word. It's the equivalent of namaste. Mr. Amit Yadav, leader of the Indian delegation and Joint Secretary, Minister of Communications. Honorable Minister Paula Ingabire, Minister of ICT and Innovation, Rwanda. Your Excellency Mr. Oscar Kaketa, High Commissioner of India to Rwanda, honorable ministers representing different countries here, and I take note of Malawi and Zimbabwe in particular, senior government leaders, business leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My role this morning is a brief one, which is to give a vote of thanks on behalf of the government of Rwanda, and also on behalf of our esteemed partners, and also on my own behalf. I would like to extend a very warm and a very hearty vote of thanks to all speakers, all participants, all companies, all delegates that have made these sessions extremely successful as they have been. So thank you to all of you very much. I want to give a particular thank you to our sponsors, and specifically to point out the Ministry of Communications and Commerce of the Government of India, with the support of the Telecom Equipment and Services Export Promotion Council, TPEC, who chose to hold this year's session in Kigali. I'm sure you're not disappointed. And the only way you can actually prove to us that you're not disappointed is by bringing the next one here again. This year's summit was held under the theme Accelerating Africa's Digital Transformation and Innovation Through Partnerships with India. And indeed, it's very timely to have such discussions on the African continent. You know that it's at a time when Africa's long-term growth prospects are really strong. If you're following our GDP performances, our income inequality improvements, our demographic improvements, our economies are growing, our people are getting much better, our middle class is improving. And so as a continent, not only our growth prospects, our prospects are generally much stronger and looking strong even in the long term. But also, as you know, we've recently paved way to become a single market for goods and services, which makes even those prospects much stronger going forward. But we also know that as the African continent prepares to partner with India, India also comes as a very strong partner on board. We know that India is ranked sometimes third, sometimes seventh largest economy, depending on which indicator you're using. India has been one of the fastest growing countries in the world, sustaining an average growth of 6 to 7%. Your GDP is really strong at 2.9 trillion. But most importantly, we know that the drivers of economic growth of India have also been very much on IT services. We know that you export IT. We know that you're very strong in BPO. You're very strong in software services. And we also know that India has been one of the biggest or largest startup countries. I did see a statistic some time back that the second largest startup hub in the world is actually India. And in 2018, we had 3,100 new startups that were developed, especially in this sector in India. So I believe that India comes as a very, very strong, tested partner, and comes to a continent that has a lot of potential, a continent that is equally strong and growing. And so working together between Africa and India only makes sense. And I'm glad that all of you who are in this room, and the organizers in particular, did see that, and I want to encourage that work to go forward. I also take note that over the last 2 days, to try and get into this desire, we've had very productive discussions. I did note that discussions touched different topics, from policies and regulatory frameworks to ways we can accelerate Africa's digital transformation and innovation. We've looked at the impact of broadband. We've looked at digital skills, among others. And I believe all these areas continue to provide very immense opportunities for us to work together as a continent and also as the country of India. Now, I want to encourage that we have consolidated efforts through these partnerships. Let us continue to work very hard. I'm told there are over 40 companies from India and almost an equivalent number from other countries. Let us continue to nurture these partnerships and accelerate ways we can develop ecosystems that go beyond our borders. And let us use these opportunities to drive economic growth, working across different networks in collaborative ecosystem. I look forward to deepening and furthering Africa's cooperation with India towards co-creating sustainable technology solutions, tackling various challenges in our societies. I want to end by also recognizing Mr. Munish Gupta, who has worked very hard in organizing this. And not only this, I know he's, I'm no longer sure whether he's Rwandan or Indian. He probably is half-half now, and that is in recognition of the tireless work he continues to put in place to bridge our two countries. Now, I also want to let you know, especially our guests from India, that we don't like our guests to leave our country empty-handed. You have to find something to go back with. It could be a packet of tea, coffee, but most importantly, if you really want to make us happy, we would like you to go with a certificate of company incorporation. And I guarantee you that that it takes only 6 hours to register a business in Rwanda. So you can actually go with something in your hand that is meaningful. But most importantly, I hope that we can have a lasting partnership or relationship with you, especially in the area of business. So let me once again thank you very much for honoring us with your presence, and a very big thank you to the organizers for making this summit a success. We hope you have meaningful takeaways from the discussions you had, and most importantly, as I said, we really hope for lasting business partnerships with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Claire Kamanzi. Another round of applause for her, please. Honorable ministers and other official delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our summit of the India-Africa Expo 2019. We thank you very much for your time, for everyone that attended, for the exhibitors. I will not repeat everyone. The speakers have mentioned the different parties. And right before we head out, I would like to request the honorable ministers and other official government delegates to please come forward for an official delegate's picture. And I will request the photographers in the back to please all come and take this picture. The formal part of this ceremony has ended, so right after the photo, you're welcome to leave or exit the room. Thank you very much once again, everyone.
The competitiveness of the country comes through the research and development and innovation. And innovation happens in the social context.